Hello, welcome to Northern Lights Spiritual Center. Northern Lights Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Lights Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. My name is Reverend Mykal Amaré, and I am the co-minister here with Reverend Mykal Amaré. The talk today will be delivered by Reverend Mykal Amaré. We at Northern Lights Spiritual Center acknowledge our presence here on the traditional, unceded ancestral lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of indigenous histories, and as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. Please join us for our opening song, which will be led by our guest today, David Duval, and he is performing some of the pieces that he has created during this pandemic and during this time being away from folks. So I hope you have special pleasure in listening to David today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there we go. Please join me in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. In this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room.
For today's meditation, I invite us to settle into wherever we are and just become aware of how it is we're sitting, or standing, or walking. Be aware of the ground underneath us, supporting us, upholding us. And just for a moment, consider that the ground under me is part of that very same ground under you. And that the air that I breathe in and the air that you breathe in is this one connected span of atmosphere surrounding the entire earth. Imagine in your mind's eye that image of the earth that gets captured from outer space. It's been said that capacity to see the earth as this blue marble in space changed consciousness. From that height, from that viewpoint, all of the boundaries, the separations between countries, between states, city to rural areas, it all just disappeared. There there was a greater sense of what it means to be connected, of what it means to be part of the whole. And as you breathe in, as this breath comes in, and this breath goes out, let ourselves imagine taking on a different perspective. What would we see if we were an eagle soaring above, high in the air? What would we sense if we were a dog whose capacity to differentiate from sense was so vibrant? What would it be like to be a tree? Our bodies reaching high towards the sun. Our roots digging deep into the earth. Let ourselves just take on the perspective, take on the experience of something different from ourselves. Breathe in from that perspective. Allow ourselves to be struck in a new way by something that we may take for granted or may have taken for granted. But now, we have a new way of being present to that. Breathe out any pull back to our own limited perspective. Breathe in that widened, fuller perspective. Maybe we're the water that at some times resides in the ocean and at other times is in the air and in the clouds and then falls as rain. Maybe we are the rock of a mountain. Whose presence has been pushed up from the center of the earth as the tectonic plates of the surface of the world crash over and smash under and give rise to something new. Maybe we become the very air. Perhaps we even become a distant star whose light takes aeons to reach this planet. With that different perspective, just take note. Is there any place where the body feels differently than it did before? Is there a place of greater expansiveness? Or alternatively, a place where there's a diminishing? And I invite us to just end this meditation today with the phrase, I am one with all that is. I am one with all that is. And a third time, I am one with all that is. And in that affirmation, allow yourself to come back to your body, back to the perspective that you normally have, but with the knowledge that that perspective is forever changed because you entered this moment to experience the world in a new way. And as you're ready, come back to the room, open your eyes, and I say, and so it is.
You got him there? Yay. So as Vaughn mentioned earlier, today's songs all come from a collection of material that I wrote between March and June, which I'm referring to the shelter songs because we were home and there wasn't anything else to do with creative energy. This is one of the last of those pieces. You will be the first to hear it. I'll teach you the verse one time through, and then we'll go ahead and sing it all the way through. This is the beginning of the lyrics there on I Lift Myself Up. I lift myself up and shine today as an expression of the divine. I claim all the good that is mine today. I was born with a perfect design. Let's do that bit one more time. 1, 2, 3. I lift myself up and shine today as an expression of the divine. I claim all the good that is mine today. I was born with a perfect design. Here's the chorus now. Life is a miracle every day. Life is a miracle in every way. Life is a miracle, and so I say, I lift myself up and shine today. I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning, and here we go. I lift myself up and shine today as an expression of the divine. I claim all the good that is mine today. I was born with a perfect design. Life is a miracle every day. Life is a miracle in every way. Life is a miracle, and so I say, I lift myself up and shine today. Second verse. I lift myself up and shine today. I've come with wonderful gifts to give. I claim all the good that is mine today, bringing light to each day that I live. Life is a miracle every day. Life is a miracle in every way. Life is a miracle, and so I say, I lift myself up and shine today. Third verse now. lift myself up and shine today. I am so grateful for who I am. I claim all the good that is mine today, as we each shine as bright as we can. Life is a miracle every day. Life is a miracle in every way. Life is a miracle, and so I say, I lift myself up and shine to see my chorus again. Life is a miracle every day. Life is a miracle in every way. Life is a miracle, and so I say, I lift myself up and shine today. I lift myself up and shine today.
Woo-hoo. Oh. Spectacles. Yes, the spectacles. I didn't print it in font 35, so I have to, and now I have to wait for the fog to clear on these.
Now you know.
This reading is from the internet, where I searched for something, a fable about working together. Long ago, in the days before civilization, out on the plains lived 4 buffalo. Sandy, Todd, Liz, and Chuck. Of course, Sandy, Todd, Liz, and Chuck. These buffalo had learned over time that they were safer as a group whenever anything looked bad or dangerous and it approached. Twitches from any of the oxen's ears, the buffalo's ears, were the signal for all of them to band together and take defensive positions. The defense was elementary but effective. The 4 buffalo would back their tails together with each buffalo facing outward. This may have been the first recorded, "I've got your back." This configuration allowed the buffalo to see in all directions. Over the years, they had often met a roaming individual buffalo enjoying the succulent plain grasses. But after a short while, every lone buffalo disappeared. The 4 buffalo guessed that the lone buffalo may have moved on to greener pastures. This was perplexing to them, given that there was more food available than could be consumed by 1,000 buffalo. Naturally, these 4 buffalo were constantly on the lookout for the perils of the plains, particularly mountain lions. A frequent threat was one local mountain lion, let's call him Ryan the mountain lion, that had been hanging around for many years. On one occasion, Ryan had stalked these 4 buffalo, only to learn that as a group, they were a formidable force. On one occasion, Chuck sighted Ryan, twitched his ear. The 4 immediately backed into the defensive positions and were ready with hooves and shoulders whenever Ryan approached. This teamwork neutralized Ryan's element of surprise and foiled his attack. Ryan never stalked them again. There was easier prey available. Perhaps those lone buffalo wandering elsewhere. One year, rain was rare and scarce. The once lush plain had bare spots, and food was harder to find. The buffalo had to work harder to fill their bellies, and the hot, dry weather made them uncomfortable and cranky. One fateful day, the buffalo disagreed on where to graze. Todd wanted to head for the hills. Sandy was in the mood for the river. Liz had heard a rumor of some good, tasty wildflowers near the rocks. And Chuck thought that grazing was just fine where they were. Todd remarked that they always got good grass at the rocks. Always! Sandy pointed out that the water was such a good thing. Always, always, always. Liz called Chuck lazy for wanting to stay put. And Chuck responded with a totally uncalled for remark about Liz's mother. Angry grunts were exchanged, driving a wedge among the 4 buffalo. They decided to split up and pursue their individual grazing goals. While the buffalo appreciated their independence at first, it did seem as though the grazing choices weren't as rich and varied as when they all considered the options of where to go. Todd got thirsty. Liz found herself getting tired of flowers. And Chuck decided that maybe it was really time to graze somewhere else. But before they could decide whether to find their old buddies, buffalo don't do anything all that quickly, it was too late. Remember Ryan? Well, he discovered the herd had disbanded, and Ryan had no trouble stalking each lone buffalo and doing what lions do. And that's how to say it nicely. When all four worked together as a team, they accomplished more than just protecting themselves against potential threats. The group also conferred on resolution strategies using the 2 or 4 heads are better than one philosophy to enhance solutions and be on the same page. Working together with others is easier, more enjoyable, more productive, generates more care, and serves others. Unfortunately, in very busy times, it's hard to continue to keep up that group spirit. All it takes is one member to wander off or criticize another member, and the strength of the bond weakens. How's that for a revolutionary concept? A group mindset has so many benefits for the group, the organization, and ultimately all others. It's essential in both challenging times and especially extremely busy times too. Or as the saying go, united we survive, divided we fall. Victim to Ryan. And so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
Yep,
That was
Ryan.
delightful.
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me, if I could, if I may, as I sit here, watching the screams and shouts, I've a thought to offer, if I may, as we struggle to find a path to working this out. Isn't it exhausting, fighting day after day with such passion and fire? What if we looked at other ways to lift the dialogue higher? You know we can do better. We can work together instead of fueling the fight. Yes, we all can do better. We can listen and share instead of flexing our might. Could we focus more on the healing, not the destruction conflict feeds? You hurt, I hurt, they hurt, but we could do better by opening up our minds and hearing each other's needs. You there with all of that anger, you've got every right to feel as you do, but tell me, with all of that anger, is the bashing and screaming really servicing you? Aren't you getting tired? Doesn't hatred drain every ounce of your joy? Is spewing venom the wisest choice that can be deployed? Oh, you know we can do better. We can talk together instead of fueling a fight. Yes, we all can do better. We could make room for growth instead of flexing our might. Could we focus more on the healing, not the destruction conflict feeds? You hurt, I hurt, they hurt, but we can do better by opening up our minds and hearing each other's needs. We must connect to resolve. It is the only way for us to grow and evolve. We must move past the fray. We gain ground taking each other's hands. We gain ground when we each understand. There is room for us all, so much room for us all. And while it's certainly been a long and difficult haul, you know we can do better. We can live together instead of fueling a fight. Yes, we all can do better. We could soothe all the pain instead of flexing our might. Could we focus more on the healing, not the destruction conflict feeds? You hurt, I hurt, they hurt, but we can do better by opening up our minds and hearing each other's needs. Could we focus more on the healing, not the destruction conflict feeds? We could do better by opening up our minds and hearing each other's needs.
Good morning, and thank you, David. I had not heard that song before.
No one has.
All right, well, see, listen. It's a debut. Oh, uncoordinated debut there. I love the whole thing. The part, my favorite part is we can do better by opening our minds
And hearing each
and
other's
hearing
needs.
each other's needs. Isn't that the truth? Good morning again, and here we are. Nice sunny day in August. And the title of my talk today is Better Together. And that song fit perfectly, and it just, I can't see out of that eye. So I need to be able to see. And this month is the title is, the theme is Inclusion in Action. And this all seems to flow together. And the idea of how can we be better? You know, how can we become better? How can we remain in that better state and work better and play better and just plain live better? We have this idea that, I mean, well, I shouldn't say we, I know I do. So many times when I'm doing something, I feel I have to do it myself, you know. For years and years, as a kid growing up, it seemed like the only one I was able to rely on was myself. And that, you know, I think everybody can understand that, you know, what you've learned in your young years, that carries through. It's carried through to me 69 years. Even though I have gotten better at asking for help. Not always, but, you know, when I really go, okay, I really should ask for help. But it's this idea of we have to do everything by ourselves. We have to be strong. I think especially guys, because we're brought up that, you know, you can't ask for help, you can't cry, you're not supposed to this, you're not supposed to that, you're supposed to be a man. That's a crock. Well, I feel it's a crock anyway, because we are all in this together, no matter if we like it or not. Sometimes there's some people in this world that I don't like to think of being together with. I don't like to think that they are part of my life, part of my gene pool, part of my oneness with the divine. But the fact is, they are. So, either, you know. And I found that out this past week watching the Democratic Convention. I think this is probably the first time I've watched every moment of it. And I thought, for me, I thought it was very well done. I enjoyed it more because it was more diverse, even though it wasn't they weren't all together in one big room spreading the virus around. It brought about, it showed a diversity of people from little kids singing the national, I forgot what they were singing. They were singing the national anthem, or the Pledge of Allegiance.
They did both.
They did both. And then the diverse of not just the ages, but the ethnicities, the sexes, the different political parties. There were both, and it's amazing. And that just goes to show that, you know, if you believe in something, you know, you can get along. And that's the whole thing, you know, if you believe in something greater than an itty bitty self, you know, and you get outside of yourself and believe that as the Centers for Spiritual Living the idea is to create a world that works for everyone, which, you know, can be a challenging thing, because we all have different needs, we all have different passions, and the idea about we all have some of the same needs. We all need to breathe. We all need to eat. We all need to have water. We all want to belong. And so there's being better together. If you take a single strand of rope, of string, I should say, you're not going to be able to tug something very far. But if you take that strand and you mix it with other strands and more strands, the more you mix together, the stronger it's going to be. You know, sometimes there's like a lot of times where you take a steel strand or wire, and they're only like 0.6 to 0.8 or to 8 millimeters in diameter. And yet, if you take one and wrap another with it, and another, and another, just imagine what you can do with that. And for instance, for example, one of the greatest things in history that's been done that way is the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge has 2 cables. And those cables, there's over 80,000 miles of wire. And there's 27,572 steel strands. And they were each about the size, the thickness of a pencil. I know when we were down there the first time in, I think it was 2011, we did a walking tour of the Golden Gate Bridge. And to hear the history and just to imagine what is supporting, you know, it has the uprights, but those 2 cables that are supporting such a vast construction, you know, and it's been there since I think 1937. And so the might of those 2 cables, just think if we were to be like that with every person in the world, if we wound our threads together, our ideas, our thoughts, if we took those and made 1, 2, 3, 4, or however many you want to make, it's just unbelievable what we could do. And if you look at sports teams, and I was thinking about the sports teams and how they work, they have to work together. I mean, they're there for one common goal, and that is to win. That's it, to win. And if they didn't work together, they probably wouldn't, win too many times. And they have to work together not only not physically, but emotionally and mentally. They have to be on the same page. And that's like any teams, like that you put together, debate teams, not just sports, but any group of people that you put together. If you want to accomplish something, you have to be together. It was interesting. I think I shared this. I never shared this last time I talked, or I know I shared it with others. When I was at boot camp in 1969, just a couple years ago, our company commander, in order to get us to learn how to march in sync, there were 80 of us. We would go out in a grinder, which is like a blacktop parking lot, and we would be in rows, and we would be holding hands and marching learning to march that way. And that way, we would be in sync, and we would be like the perfect marching machine. And we did win some competition with that. And he felt that was the way to do it. And he got harassed for making fun of us. 80 guys holding hands on the grinder. And then another time where it was very clear that we needed to work together was when I was shortly after that in survival training before going to Vietnam. I was in Little Creek, Virginia in January, and it was nasty cold. And I was 18, and a lot of us were pretty young, but then we had some guys that had been in the Navy for 10, 20 years, and they were a little bit older, a little bit more out of shape, and we'd be running. We had this, actually at that time we had a Marine drill sergeant teaching us, and we would be running, and all of a sudden, he'd have us drop and start doing push-ups until those who fell behind caught up. Eventually, a little light bulb came on in our heads, So what we did for those falling behind, 2 of us would get on the side and help them along. And then he finally said, "You got it." Because when someone lags behind, you leave no one behind. And when they lag behind, you fall back and you carry them. No matter what you have to do, you bring them along. And that was a good lesson because, so many times, especially during that time I was there, the generation gap and these different gaps that we have, we need to get rid of those. We need to unblur the lines between them. And that was one way that I hated push-ups, and I hate them to this day. And so, for those of us that hate push-up, it was a good lesson for us to learn. That fall back and help those who can't quite, themselves until they can. There was a quote used from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the convention. And I'm going to read a little bit more than the quote itself. It says, "We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools." And this was the part next that was used. "We are tied together in a simple garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. And whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the way God's universe is made. This is the way it is." I like that part about we're all tied together in that single garment of destiny. And we're all here for a purpose and for a reason. And a lot of times we may never know the purpose or the reason. But to me, one of the things is to be the best that you can be in any given moment. To work together. To rise up, to become greater than as a group than as an individual. Because most of us are not here for the greatness of it. I think sometimes I have felt that in order to mean something in this world, I have to do something great and grandiose and like create the whatever. But that's not true. It really isn't. There are those people that do create greatness. Yet there's those of us that sometimes it's the little tiny things in life that bring about the greatest joy, the greatest hope in other people's lives. Just by kind words, by a smile. I mean, that's a big thing. Nowadays it's a little hard to see if somebody's smiling because of the mask, but sometimes you can tell with the eyes, or you could buy a smiling mask. I've seen those. Or you could say, I am smiling under here. It's just the idea of reaching out to someone because you do not know what their day has been up to that moment. It could have been total hell. It could have been total heaven. You don't know. And so many times we judge people when we meet them. We judge at that moment. And that's quite unfair. I always thought that, first impressions were some of the greatest things. And sometimes my first impressions have been spot on. But there have been times when my first impression were totally off base. Like for instance, when I was in the Navy, I was in Japan, and then there was this guy that was dating the girl that I was dating, and we didn't like each other. Come to find out, we ended up being like best friends because the girls took off and went to another base and all that, and we got to talking, and then he said, well, I didn't like you because you were too quiet and withdrawn and all that. And I said, well, I didn't like you because I thought you were too stuck up and hooked on yourself. So sometimes first impressions just are not correct. And once in a while they are, because I met people that were, I considered jerks. And going through life and knowing them for many years, that's just the way they went through their life. But a couple of things that we can do to get to that point where we can become better together, excuse me, is by confronting our fears. Because fear is one of the greatest, Fear is one of the greatest killers and harborers of hate, I think, that there is. But if we can confront our fears and move past these fears and be together with each other in ways we never have. And then there's pushing against the boundaries, and that's like fears. Like we all have our boundaries. We all have our comfort zones. And I love my comfort zones. But you know what? When I've gone beyond my comfort zones, I've learned a little bit more about myself. And to me, that is a healthy thing. Because we grow, we learn, we expand. We expand our knowledge, we expand our heart space. One thing at the convention that really, several things brought me to tears, but if you knew me, that's nothing unusual. Was the 13-year-old boy that had a stutter. and how he said that Joe met him and you know, helped him along, and the courage of that young man to go on national television and to say that and to experience that was so moving. That if we could do that with others, that I mean, there are people in this life that have difficulties walking, people that have difficulties walking, you know, people with different diseases that don't allow them to walk and talk and act the same way we do. Is that their fault? No. I think not. So we get out of our comfort zones and we open up to others. Like in the song, opening minds, hearing each other's needs. I mean that's plain. I mean that's plain and simple. We open our minds, open our hearts. Hearing each other's needs. I was reading something this morning. It was on a listserv. The minister listserv was about Ernest Holmes' death, and I had never read this before. It was just, I mean, there was quite a bit there, but the one part, the person said that she believed that Ernest Holmes actually died of a broken heart because his wife had died. I think it was like 3 years before Hazel had died, and religious science had split before he died, and that broke his heart. It was split into I forgot what the two were. RCI, Religious Science International, and United Centers for United Centers for Religious Science. Okay, I'll have to look that up. Anyway, that he died of a broken heart because the people that shared his beliefs had come up to a wall, and they couldn't be together anymore. And that's like families. What we were watching yesterday. And this family was so horrid to each other. And Reverend Vaughn goes, aren't you glad, or something about, aren't you happy when your family doesn't do that? And I said, yes. It's just, it's unbelievable, because families do that too. I mean, oh my God. Families are not kind to each other. Not always. I mean, some are, but some are just not. Especially, I find, particularly when there's a death in the family, then that can really split the family. So there's like 3 things that we can do. And the first one is align. And that's to seek to identify and develop shared goals where possible, even when some goals are in conflict. So try to find something in common. I mean, that's the thing that we look so much at our differences that we don't think about what we have in common, or the goals we have in common, the beliefs we have in common. We just tend to like what was the lion's name? Ryan,
mountain lion.
You know, he didn't care because he just went into rip and tear. And then the second one is to listen. And you know, I think life could heal itself with just that one word, listen. Seek to understand the expertise and perspective of others and help them to understand yours. And it says, help them, not pound it down their throats. And that works in both ways. So many times, you know, I mean, I have heard things where I listen and I can say I understand what you're saying, and I really where you come from, but I still believe this. And you're not making each other wrong. It's just that you have beliefs, and they maybe come from, you know, how you were raised, where you were raised, and the same for the other person. But to listen, to seek, to understand the expertise, because each of us has an expertise, and actually each of us have our own perspective of others, and help them to understand ours, or yours. And then respect. There's not a lot of that going around these days. Well, of course, this is my opinion. Find a way to feel and show respect for others and expect respect for your own, for yourself. So many times we don't expect respect. We don't expect respect. That's interesting. And I'm not sure, I know for years I felt if I didn't agree with others then I was wrong. And as I shared before, this one friend laughed at me because I told him, and I thought I was wrong if I didn't agree with you. And after him laughing at me, after, you know, getting a little upset, you know, what in the hell are you laughing at me for? I understood that, you know, there's a lot of gray area in life. And we don't all have to agree 100%. That's, I think the world would be pretty boring if we were all yes people, you know? If we all agreed on everything. I mean, because we are creative beings, you know, our minds are just exploding with creativity. So, and there's some of us more than others. And, you know, it's the idea of that creativity that makes life worth, to me, makes life worth living. To enjoy and savor life. Because by creating, we make life new. Each and every moment, every day, we're creating a new day. We're creating a new way of being in our lives. So, if we just align ourselves, you know, and develop shared goals, listen. I remember train crossings used to say, watch, what? Watch, look, and listen? No, that wasn't clear. Anyway, it would say, and listen was one of them, because, you know, if the train's coming, you don't want to be there. And listen and respect. Find a way to respect others' feelings, others' ideas, and expect to have your ideas and feelings respected. There's the thing where it says, ask yourself when you're wanting something, when you want something in your life. We always, we do this. We ask ourselves, does what I wish to express more life, more happiness, more peace to myself, and at the same time harm no one? And if it does, then that's right. But if you're going to harm one person for what you want in your life, whatever that is that you want to manifest in your life or to be, if it's going to hurt one soul, one person, then it's the wrong use of the law. Plain and simple. Because the law takes what we put into it and puts it into motion. I always like to say that it shapes it. I always imagine the law being this thing that takes whatever comes in and it shapes it and it molds it and then sends it out, puts it into practice. So another thing about the beauty is of better together and what was referenced in the outline this week was the idea of a tapestry. And I did not know this about tapestries, that there's threads that are put in vertically and horizontally and then kind of pounded together so they look like one. And I didn't know that. I mean, if one comes unraveled, the whole thing's not going to unravel. And I found that quite interesting because, you know, within a community, if one little thing happens to one person, I believe that the other people are going to rally around and, you know, lift that person up, whatever they may need. At least that's a community I would like to be in. I wouldn't like to be in a community that if something happened, I was ostracized. That's not a community I want to be in. But it's like that tapestry. If one little thing comes a little unraveled, you know, you're not going to notice it. And same with a community. One person or a couple people or whatever, they have something bad happen, something that's not maybe a health issue or a financial issue, and that community are going to gather around and they're going to lift that person up. And that is what is meant to me by being better together. Instead of letting that person have to fight it out by themselves and try to get better. The community, and to me that's what community is. It's a community. A community is the group that lifts up each other, that holds each other in prayer and support, whatever way each and every individual need is. So that is how I picture and I imagine being better together. And we can do that. I forgot who said it this week. It's about, we are better than this. You know, we are better than the way we treat some people. Better than how we treat some groups of people, no matter what that group is. We are better than that. And so I just invite us to look at what we are doing. Are we assisting in making this, your community, your family, better, instead of dragging it down? And so with that, I just want you to take away those three things: to align, listen, and respect. Align, listen, and respect. And so, in closing, I know that there is only one life. And that life is perfect. That life is God's life. That life is my life. That life is your life, right here and right now. And knowing that that life is our life. Each and every person in this room, in any room, in this universe, we are all connected in this oneness. This oneness of divine love, divine grace, divine peace, and divine joy. And by holding these things together, by sharing this love, this grace, this peace, and this joy with each other, we create a better world. And we, as individuals, become better. And as a group, become better. And so I give thanks for this time together. I give thanks for the idea of creating a better world. For creating a world that will work for everyone. And so I release this into the automatic action of the law, because the law knows what's best. The law is the action. And so I release it, letting it go, and letting it be. And so it is.
There's such a lot that can divide us. Religion, gender, age and race, but there's so much we have inside us that is shared by every person we'll ever face. So reach across the line, touch the souls who are waiting there, tend to them with loving care, reach across the line, live the life you love, and celebrate each human light, lift them up till they shine bright as they live the life they love. Let's all remember we're connected to every single soul that lives. Look and you'll see if reflected in the tender words and looks that your neighbor gives. Oh, reach across the line, share your laughter and your perfect joy, with a faith and love that can't be destroyed, and the knowledge that every life's divine. Reach across, just reach across the line. Let's all remember we're connected to every single soul that lives. Look and you'll see your lives reflected in the tender words and looks that your neighbor gives. Oh, reach across the line, share your laughter and your perfect joy, with a faith and love that can't be destroyed, and the knowledge that every life's divine. Reach across, just reach across the line. Reach across, just reach across the line. Thank you.
Thank you, David Duvall. And I'm waiting with bated breath for. It's in the process of doing a double set CD.
Yeah.
And
Because I wrote so many things.
yes, it's good therapy.
It was great therapy,
It's,
and it ended up, a lot of people said it was speaking what they were thinking but didn't know how to voice, so I felt like I could be of service that way. So,
Amen. Well, thank you for that.
you're welcome.
And I want to thank everybody who joined us today on Facebook Live and on Zoom. Zoom? Sound like a little kid with a little card. Zoom. And for those of you who would like to contribute, you can contribute through the website, which is northernlightspiritualcenter.com. And for those of you that would like to stay on Zoom after the service is over, just hang on, and for our post service talk. Anyway, and I want to thank David for being here this week. It's always nice to have live music, even though we have very few live people. Well, I shouldn't say that because I think you all are live.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, just, see, sometimes the words just, they bumble out without the brain being engaged too much. And I apologize for that. And so I would just like to give thanks for all and any who have ever contributed to Northern Lights Spiritual Center in whatever way that might be, whether it is in finances, whether that is in support, whether that is just your presence, because your presence is a gift to this community, because your presence is what builds this community. And so I give thanks for each and every one of you being here today. And I invite you back next week. And so I say, and so it is. So now we have one last song, which most people know.
Yeah, and Ron, if you want to help me lead this, that'd be great, because I haven't done it in so long that I've forgotten the format.
Oh, sure.
I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory. I am as God created me. In the light, in the love, in the glory.
Mykal is pointing to me to speak, but I'm not really sure what he's
To say
going to.
goodbye.
Oh, just thank you all for being here. I just figured since Mykal had already said.
Well-
So, to our Facebook
No.
family, thank you. To our Zoom family, we will keep talking with you. And so it is.